guys? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. We interview the best resellers and just do shop talk every single week. And this week we have the Posh Hanger. She's one of the OG resellers on Instagram. She's done over 50,000 transactions on eBay, and this year she's on track to do 500,000 in sales, which is amazing. I've known her for 4 years personally. She was one of the first resellers I met, and this episode will be played in its full entirety on YouTube. So normally we put half of the episode on our Patreon at patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast, but this episode we have the full amount on YouTube because it has the best information. So if you guys want to support us, please join our Patreon, and the link is in the description below. We have an awesome Facebook group with about 100 members in it that can help you get to the next level. We can help you build a 6 or 7 figure eBay business. And Tech, who runs the Facebook group with me, he's done millions of dollars in sales on eBay, hundreds of thousands of transactions, over 300,000 transactions actually. And he's a wealth of knowledge. And get in there, join the group, meet with other people who do the exact same job as you, and take it to that next level with that accountability and sharing your exact processes. So let's get straight into today's content. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Please smash the like button, and we'll see you guys in the show. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Today we have the awesome guest, Monica. She goes by the Posh Hanger on Instagram. Monica, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you on social media?
Hi, Chris. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Monica. I am a full-time reseller. I am currently mainly on Instagram, like Chris said, the Posh Hanger. And hi, Tech. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, happy to talk.
We were super excited to have you as our first guest because you're, one of the OGs of reselling. I met up with you 4 years ago in person. You're one of the first resellers I ever met in the flesh. So you've been doing this a long time. And when I met you, you'd already been doing it for a while.
Yeah. And actually just around the time that I met you was around the time that I started meeting any resellers in the flesh. Cause like you said, I had already been doing it, for years. I'm coming up almost on 10 years. And so the first half of my reselling, I resold alone. Didn't know not one other reseller sold. I didn't even know I was called a reseller. I was just in my little crab shell, like just doing my own thing. And not until I got on Instagram, just on accident, not that I got on Instagram on accident, I kind of just stumbled onto the reselling community. Like I just said, I didn't know it even existed. I didn't even know I was called a reseller. When I tell you I was on my own alone, I got on to I thought, okay, I should have an Instagram for my eBay store, to try to get some customers, and I would hashtag eBay. And then that's how I just cross-pollinated into the reselling community and met all of you guys. So it was an eye-opener and mind-blowing that other people did this.
Yeah. So you were already making a full-time living when I met you. This is what you were doing. But this year you took it to a whole nother level. And, Tech and I noticed some changes, and we wanted to ask you about that. Tech, notably, what have you seen that you wanted to ask Monica questions about?
I know that previously to this, Monica was real heavy into eBay and maybe one of the largest women sellers that I've seen. I know she has over 25,000 feedback. So that alone, there's not many people that are at that level. But I know this year with the pandemic, me and you talked a lot in the beginning. And I think it's very cool that you were able to pivot your entire business. You leaned more into Amazon. And I think that this year you've sold more than any other year previously in a pandemic and shifted your business. So I think totally hats off to you for doing that, having the foresight and the wherewithal to, turn lemons into lemonade.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of things happened very serendipitously. One thing is, in the past, one of the reasons I stuck to eBay, and I've always been very candid with this, is my budget constraints. And I think eBay is a great place to start. I know I've talked to Chris a lot about not being able to hire help, not being able to afford things. And so that was one reason I will say, with eBay, I saw mainly women's clothing, thrifted. And so, there's a low barrier to entry there because, you can go into the thrift store and spend $100 and come out with a good amount of inventory. So I had been doing that for so long that I had finally got to a place, and I went through some personal things that just caused me to have some financial hardships. But so I always told myself, when I get X amount of money saved up and I have more spending capital, I am going to jump on Amazon, because I was selling on Amazon for the last few years and I saw the potential. I just didn't have the capital needed to go as hard as I wanted to, but I knew that I needed to do something different if I wanted to hit that next tier. So I kind of told myself, I had already planned on 2020 being the year that I turned more into Amazon. So I had done this thing where I had made my financial plan for 2020, of course, in the beginning, pre-pandemic. And I had told myself, come April, I'm going to go really hard on Amazon. I have enough money. I have a plan. I have this is what I was going to do. And I wanted to give eBay one last full month of my attention, knowing that I was going to do this in April. Again, this is pre-pandemic. So I had done this thing called Mamba March. You probably remember, Tech. And I was like, we're going to do this Mamba March. Obviously Kobe had passed away and he was somebody that I looked up to. And actually Tech was the first person to tell me. Tech sent me a text that day. And I was actually at Goodwill sourcing for eBay that day. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do this Mamba March. I'm going to hit 24K. That was my goal. My goal was to hit 24K for Kobe, Mamba March, thrift only. And right before everything got shut down, I had a 30-day of like 22, 23K. So I just had to pretty much maintain and do a little more. And then we got locked down. So there was no way, obviously, I couldn't keep through. So I had some backlog of stuff that I had, thrifted. But once that was done, I was like, okay, well, I guess I can't do Mamba March. And I got really disappointed and really discouraged. Of course, I was really sad about what was happening. But I thought, wow, I was on this good track and now I can't go sourcing. So there was a moment of like, darn, this is not cool. This is kind of sad. And then all of a sudden I started to see demand in certain items and categories on Amazon. And since I couldn't thrift anymore because all the thrifts were literally closed, I just said, okay, well, your plan was to go hard in April anyways. I guess it's just going to happen a few weeks early. So I just put my head down, and I have a little network of Amazon friends that were a huge help to me. And then I just went all in. And the velocity is just something that I had never witnessed before on any. I mean, I had sold on Amazon before, but because of the pandemic, there were certain things that were just flying. It was insane. So, yeah, that's what happened.
The 24 Mamba challenge, that was just eBay, or was it everything?
Oh, that was just eBay.
That's awesome.
It was just So my previous,
Go ahead.
I would say, so my previous PR, personal record ever on eBay for thrifted was just a little over 20. So that was a pretty stretch goal for me. But being that it was going to be my last month of just thrift only, I wanted to really give myself a good goal to kind of go out on.
Did you have to do anything different to go from 20 to 24? What was the Mamba mentality difference?
So the Mamba mentality difference was I couldn't, because I was still doing everything pretty much myself. I couldn't do double, but so my old MO was I have a thrift route that I would do every Wednesday. So I basically thrift the entire day. And where I live in Santa Cruz. There's not good thrift here, so I got to drive all the way over the hill, somewhere near Chris's in the Bay Area. And so I would make my thrift route all day, literally from 9 till 8 whenever they close, and drive all the way back. So what I did was I had planned on thrifting 2 days. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're thrifting and you're driving so far, it's a lot. And I just basically, I'm already working so much, but I was just planning on working more hours and thrifting twice instead of once a week.
Okay,
of course,
so then,
upping my listing.
so you set that PR, but this is really important for people that are listening to take note.
Mm-hmm.
You have people to lean on. So why were the
Mm-hmm.
Amazon friends so important when you were doing eBay? Because we're about to get into your Amazon journey right now.
I think I had been selling on Amazon, I would say from a beginner to intermediate level. And what was the biggest encouragement or lift that my Amazon friends gave me was that I had a front row seat to what they were doing. So it wasn't so much like bolos, but I was scared of spending so much money. I was used to going to the thrift, and if I spent $400 at one store, that was a lot to me, one store. Now here I'm going to the store and spending like 1,000 at one store and not even coming out with what I'm used to, like bags and bags. So if I didn't have their encouragement, I don't know that I could have done it as fast, because I needed just their another word for encouragement, but I needed them. I needed to lean on them to let me know, like, hey, Monica, this is normal. This is the new normal. I was still in the old normal, which is the thrift spending a few $100s. So I feel like I don't know how it would have gone if I didn't have them encouraging me.
That's a really good point, because tech is always talking about if you owe taxes or if you have a big bill, that's a good thing. Tech, do you want to
Mm-hmm, yeah.
elaborate on that? Because that mentality is not normal. Most people are afraid of fees.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that my fees were, $100,000 a month. That would mean you're selling, $1 million a month. So, the more fees, the more taxes. That's nothing to be scared of. The thing that, coming from an eBay world of spending 5, making 20, spending 5, making 50, to now go to the Amazon world of spending 30, maybe making 15, spending 30, maybe making 20. But like you said, the velocity of you can get all of your money back literally on the same day as soon as your items go live on Amazon. So as long as you know the sales rank and you know how to play the Amazon game, like the word you were searching for, I think, is more reinforcement that this is good, this is okay, this is what you have to do to play this game. Yeah.
Reinforcement and validation. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, 100%. And this was one thing. So a lot of my mentality had to change, and it changed from one day to the next because, our lockdown happened. They're gone. Thrift's gone. What I've been doing for almost 10 years is gone obviously for the first time. And I think when I was now looking back at how I used to think versus what I think now, I think when I was in the thrift world, I was too hung up on ROI, and I was too hung up on, besides capital being an issue, but just from a mentality point, that would be like, I spent $5, and like Tech said, we'll turn it into 20 or 30 or whatever it is. That's a high ROI. With Amazon, maybe you spend, like Tech was saying, you spend 30 and you only make 15. So obviously that's a way less ROI. But then you factor in the velocity, and I feel like you have to live it a day or two to see the numbers and how it impacts you when you have so many units. And one of my longtime BFFs, Cindy, Amazing Taster on IG, one thing I've been telling her because she also kind of took this leap with me, is when we kind of started to see this shift in our thinking about ROI and all that, as I kept telling her, I have been looking at this wrong the whole time. I just realized it. So what I've been telling her is I changed my view to SKU. So it's per SKU. It's not just asking what ROI is on a item, that's not enough information. Because if you say, okay, my ROI is 100% on this item, that's a item, that's one. So you have this SKU A, that's for this t-shirt that you thrifted. Okay, you have only one item. So that's 100% ROI, which is amazing, great. You got paid out on that SKU once. You made, let's say it was $20. Now you have another SKU that I'm getting on Amazon. That's SKU B. My ROI is less. Maybe it's a quarter of what the other ROI is, but I have 100 of them. So that SKU is going to pay me 100 times. So, and then if it's one of those items that is selling, so much every day, so that I feel has really changed how I look at inventory now, is changing my view to SKU instead of ROI per item. No, you got to look at the whole thing. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And you also took advantage of something in your eBay store. Something that you and Tech do really well is you sell in the same category. Oftentimes you pick up things that you already know will sell in a specific category. And that makes a big difference because you're saving a lot of time. Speaking of saving time, our Facebook group of like-minded individuals is available in the description below at patreon.com/the-resellerspodcast. Tech and I have been doing this a long time. We've met everyone along the way, and we can show you a lot of shortcuts that can save you time in building your business and help you avoid a lot of the problems that we faced building this up. And when we started, the community wasn't like it is now. Now you can literally join a group of people who do the exact same thing and share their secrets with each other. So we'll see you guys in the Facebook group, and back to the podcast. And nothing is faster than selling the identical thing. So let's talk.
When I was talking to you, Chris, and I showed you how I made a listing on the computer, and it was like 25 seconds or less, and I only had to change a couple of words. And when Chris saw it and he replied, he said, "You're basically just doing replenishables." And that's really what I'm doing on eBay, because it's going to be the same baseball shirt. It's going to be the same basketball shirt, the same Ralph Lauren shirt. It's just different photos, but it's just replenishable. It's something that's easily replaced. You just change a couple of things and you launch the listing. So, something that we've been talking about is like selling similar off of your own items so you can list your items quicker. But if you just keep buying the same things over and over again, it's essentially a replenishable, not the same exact SKU, but it's the same product, the same item, and it becomes easier to list. There's not a lot of research. There's not a lot of things you have to do. Just sell similar off of the same exact item, and it becomes a replenishable in that way.
One more thought on, I want to illustrate this because Tech didn't even know that he was skipping all these steps, because when you break it down, that you get the thrift store, you look up the item, you look up what it is, what it sells for. It's like 80 steps. And he has narrowed it down to like 10 things that he does per listing. And he eliminated 70 of the things. So if you guys are trying to think about this, I would say, okay, if you wanted to list a dental chair, okay, no, I don't think anybody listening has ever done that. If you think about trying to do that from scratch, having no idea how to list that, that's what it's like when you don't sell in similar categories. You just don't have, you have no idea how to ship it, no idea how to describe it.
Yeah, agree. And actually, when I met Tech, I always tell him he's my brother from another mother, because it was crazy how similar Tech and I were. Him on a much grander scale, of course, but just being resellers alone for so long before we got on Instagram. And then how we were so engraved into our niche, and just also how we listed. He would be like, I do that. And I'm like, no way, I do that. So it was so nice when I met you, Tech. It felt like somebody who has been doing this for so long that understands. But back to when we were talking about that, how we do the sell similar. We buy the same. I feel like I buy the same brands, the same styles, the same, same thing. What we talked about one day is like how important relevancy is. And that's not something that's talked about a lot. but that's also a side benefit of what has been good for our respective stores is that you start to gain relevancy. Mm-hmm. So if I go in and sell, even though I do, have a lot of feedbacks, not as much as tech, but if I go in and try to sell something that he has relevancy in, even at a lower price, he may come up first on search because he owns that category. Of course, there's a bunch of people that come up, but that you start to build trust and relevancy within your categories, and that gives you a boost in search. So I just wanted to talk about that because I feel like the relevancy isn't talked about a lot. But also I started noticing that on Amazon, which I didn't see that as much until I started merchant fulfilling. And I thought, wow, it's the same thing. Like these people with way more feedbacks, and they have so much items in this category because they have gained the trust of the algorithm. And so they're on top of me, even though I have a lower price. So that's just a side benefit to talk about and think about.
Such an important fact that account age is not really talked about. And if obviously these online platforms have to protect against fraud. They have to protect against all these new things. If you have a track history, of course, they know we give Monica 80 impressions. It's going to result in 2 clicks and a sale. If you prove that, they'll just keep giving you those 80 people over and over and over again.
Yeah. The age of your account, the trust, relevancy, and conversion. Conversion is king. That's what I always say. Conversion is king. You've got to convert. And once you have the trust of the algorithm, then you have an easier road for sure.
Because at the end of the day, we all have to remember that eBay is a business and they're in business to make money. So I believe that they will sort traffic to trusted members who do have some sort of longevity, that when they give you the customer, they know you're going to deliver the item on time. They know it's going to be accurately described. They know it's going to be in the parameters of the listing, as opposed to maybe someone, if they have a lot of late shipments, maybe if they have a lot of bad feedback, a lot of cases that get opened all the time, a lot of returns. I don't know why eBay, as a company that is looking to make money, is going to guide a customer towards an eBay seller who's not living up to the expectations that they're putting forth, and guide them customers and guide them money. If you can constantly prove to eBay that I will get the item out on time, it is going to be as described. If there is an issue, I will take care of it. There's no problem with that. eBay, as a business, they want to have a good customer experience, so they're going to guide customers to you as long as you're doing your job, as opposed to maybe somebody who's not. And that also goes into answering messages quickly, answering offers quickly. If you're home, if you're awake, eBay is going to give you traffic. If you don't respond to offers for 3 days, why would eBay give you the traffic to maybe get around to the buyer? That's something that I don't understand. Why, if you're going to run an eBay store, try to run it to the best of your ability. Make sure all of these things are running at top notch, and eBay will reward you for that. If you treat eBay as a hobby, or like you don't give it the respect that it deserves, you can't, feel obligated for them to direct you all the traffic, because you're not living up to the expectation that the customer deserves. They have to spend so much money on Google, on all of these advertisements to acquire these customers for us. So when a customer is acquired, they need to have a good experience.
Yeah. And that was, agree 100%. That all of what Tech said was another thing him and I talked about, that when we met, we found that we had in common, because as many transactions as we both had, we tried so hard to be at 100% feedback on Tech. And we were both talking about like how, and I've kind of slipped these last few months from being so busy on Amazon. I need to get back on it. But we talked about that, about responding to messages quickly, offers. It's these things that we don't see on our dashboard, but that are still, again, gaining the trust of the algorithm. So 100% agree for sure.
One thing that I want to mention also is you are from the career world. You are one of the unicorns
Yes.
that went from working from somebody else to being able to work only for yourself. That is amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
So
Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say yes. So I spent 16 years in the corporate world. I was in banking. I started when I was 16 and I worked at Wells Fargo. I was a teller. I worked my way up to a branch manager of 2 locations. So I had 2 locations. I had like 50 people that reported to me, 4 assistants, and I went from that to quitting to being unemployed and going to the thrift store. That's literally what happened.
But I want to point out that yes, you did that, but you took your
Mm-hmm.
existing knowledge of what you wore and then started
Mm-hmm.
selling that. I feel like a lot of people don't sell what they know.
Oh yeah, yes. Mm-hmm. And that's always my advice. And I know I've heard both of you say the same thing. Is like just sell what you already know, and especially if you're passionate about it. If you're passionate about X item or niche and you know it, what don't go and sell women's clothes because you that's what we see on Instagram. I always say like if I could go back and I didn't know about women's clothing, I wouldn't. It's just that just happened to be what I knew. And I started reselling out of necessity. It wasn't a hobby. After I quit, I moved out of state and then I quickly got depressed because, I'm used to all my book of business, my customers, my mentors, my employees, my staff, like I had all this. And then all of a sudden I was alone and I moved. So then I was really alone and I didn't foresee this depression that was going to follow. And then that happened. And I basically blew through all the money I had and I looked in my closet and I had a lot of nice stuff from, when I had my good job. And I thought, well, I need to sell this stuff. So it wasn't out of like, oh, this will be a fun side gig. It was, I didn't have money for rent. I didn't have money for things that I needed to buy. And I'm a single parent on top of that. So I'm like, okay, I got to sell this stuff. And I was surprised at how good it sold. And then when I was done selling all my stuff, I was not a thrifter prior to this. I was the Dumbo that went to Nordstrom and Saks and actually, paid retail. That was me before this. I was not a thrifter. I can't even think of the amount of times I went to a thrift store, probably for a Halloween outfit, back in the day. And so, though when I was done with it, I was pleasantly surprised that it all sold. And so that's when I found out. I can't remember if it was my sister. Somebody said, "Oh, you should try a thrift store." And I was like, I guess I will. And I went and I found out they had Dollar Day, which is, like all the stuff that's been sitting there for a month, nobody wants. So I went and I spent $50. I got 50 items and I sold them. And then the next time I got like 55 and the next time I got 60. And that's literally how it went. I just kept upping it. And all this time, I'm thinking I'm going to go back to the corporate world. And I was looking for jobs. I hadn't gone on any interviews or anything, but I thought, okay, if I don't hit X amount by this date, you really have to go back to corporate. And I was selling and I had gone to the library. Why I was not on social media. I did not think of I'm so dumb, honestly, why I didn't like Google things, but I went to the library and I checked out a book called eBay Millionaires. That was the first time that I read anything reselling related. And I saw how all these people had basically started like me, started out of their garage or out of their extra room and just selling their own stuff. And now they actually lived off eBay. I didn't know people lived off of eBay. It was just such a foreign thing to me. So that was the first time a light bulb went off in my head. And then I thought, okay, Monica, if you hustle, if you can make this much money per month, then you don't have to go back to work, to the corporate job. And I did. I was able to hit those numbers and I just never looked back. So yeah.
What did you do before you knew the reseller community existed? You just figured it out?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
Oh, I'm
What did
sorry.
I do? What?
What did you do before the reseller community? How did you figure out how to sell things?
Okay, so back when I started, it was always just auctions. And you know how later they added buy it now. Well, when I started back up, when I left my job, there was buy it now. I just always did auctions. So I was turning over things really, really fast. So I would go and just put everything on auction. I would start everything at $5.99 and $7.99 plus shipping. And that's what I did. I never looked up items. When I say that I never went on and looked what other things were pricing them at. I'm just going to let it fly, and whatever it lands on when the auction's done is done. And I bag the suckers up and go. But that's how I started to learn even more brands, because as things would have a lot of bids, I'm like, oh, this brand has a lot of bids. That must mean it's a good brand. So kind of like remember that. And so that's what I did. That's all I did. I would shop every Thursday on Dollar Day, get at least 100 items, and shop every other Saturday for half off day, put them on auction, sell, rinse, repeat. That's it. That was it. That was all I did.
One of the things I thought was pretty inspirational with you is you have to do it. I feel like that mentality is so different than, people who are doing this
100%.
even people who are doing it as a hobby with that mentality. It's totally different.
It is. And that's why I hesitate when people say, should I go full time? And I know you specifically said this, that you made a post, I don't know if it was a year or two ago, saying something about you don't know if you recommend people going full time. Do you remember that?
I
Chris?
still don't recommend people go full time.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember you saying that, and someone asked me my opinion. They're like, well, Chris said he doesn't recommend, or he doesn't. And I was like, why? I second that, only because the amount of stress, I made myself sick over stress. So from being, in the financial hardship and having to do this, it is so stressful that I don't want to say it and deter people either. So I want to make that clear. If your heart is in this, but you have a job, like, do it the right way. I always say my way was the blueprint of how not to do it. So basically I quit with no plan. I wasn't selling. I had done it, here and there, from back in the day, but never, it wasn't even a hobby for me at that time. Do it right is to like have a savings of at least 6 months bills if you sold zero. But yes, the difference in stress, and I can see it in people. When you're saying what I do before I hit the reseller community, is I noticed once I got into the reselling community, I could tell who had this as a luxury and who did this because they needed money. One thing that stood out, first thing, was when people started talking about death piles. And I was like, what is a death pile? What are they talking about? Then it occurred to me that people were buying things and not listing them. And I'm not trying to be mean, but you have to understand my situation. I was doing this to put food on the table and pay my rent. So when I saw people were doing that, in my head, I was like, oh, okay, it's clear they don't need it. Because if you needed it, you wouldn't have a death pile. So in my mind, a death pile is a luxury. And I don't mean I call my pending a pipeline, like a pipeline of my clothes, but that's just waiting to get photographed. But no, these people are like buying and just leaving it there and making kind of fun of it. And I get it. It's funny, but that also shows like they don't need it, because if you needed it, it wouldn't be sitting there. And then you go and spend more money. So, but the stress is very, very stressful. So I can easily tell when people don't need it. It's a totally different stress.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense, because a death pile is definitely a luxury, but it just comes down to capital. I watched you in the beginning.
Exactly.
You churned your inventory really quickly, sometimes giving up potentially a larger sale in the future by just making sure you have the cash flow.
Yes. And I I'll never put down anybody's business plan or business model. You do whatever works for you, you know. If you have the luxury of not needing this, that's amazing. You know, that's amazing. So many times I would get reverse FOMO of like, you know, people that didn't need it and they could just do this for fun. And I would think, man, I wish I could do that. But, you know, we all get in our comparisons where we know we're not supposed to compare. But yeah, there's times the cat conversion and cash is king always in this business for sure.
I have to go back to tech really quick. And he had mentioned in a few different calls that if you do your listing right the first time, you do not need to go back and edit it later. So I would prefer people grow a lot slower. Just do it. Have a small, expensive store when you start, and then learn what that even means. And then later you can build upon it. But it's really hard to fix a big store with stuff that doesn't sell. Let's get into your transition into Amazon. How did you add that to your mix?
So again, that was another thing. There's a ton of positives came out of me finding the reselling community, meeting you, Tech, and so many amazing people, and just others letting me know I'm not alone and stuff. But also the knowledge that came with it and the exposure to other types of reselling. So I also had no idea. When I tell you I lived in like a shell, I'm telling you, I had no idea people sold on Amazon. I thought it was just a place people bought stuff. So when I joined the reselling community, I saw people were talking about selling on Amazon. And I was like, what are they talking about? They're selling on Amazon. And then, so, you know, I started meeting or following people. And I'm sure you guys know Reezy. I realized he was my neighbor by watching his videos and like, oh my God, I know that. And I sent him a message and he kind of let me know, yeah, you can sell on Amazon and you just got to scan things. And I was like, okay. So that's how I learned, just from Instagram. And then just diving in, getting my account, figuring out the basics of ranks. Same thing as far as eBay, where I tell people just start in your house. I scanned anything that I had in my house with a barcode. And then I started going to, when I was at the thrift for eBay, I would go down, you know, like the hard goods aisle where they would have like video games and anything in a box with a barcode. I would scan it. And I kind of learned the basics while not having to spend a lot of capital, and books, and of course books. So that's how I learned it. And then when I started getting into liquidations is when I really tried to up my Amazon game.
That's a really good thing to keep in mind. When you're getting started with this is one of the few businesses that does not require $100,000 for you to do a brick and mortar or a bank loan. You can just start with stuff around your house. And that doesn't mean you can't sell on Amazon. You definitely have things at home that have a barcode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Books is a great place to learn because it definitely has, Amazon has a much larger learning curve than eBay does. There's just so much more to it. It was much different, night and day from learning eBay, but you could still start out of your house for sure.
So I want to ask you a question I think that maybe some people don't think about, which is how did you have the confidence to approach people and meet people? Because I feel like I cheated because I started with the reseller community.
Yeah.
I skipped all these lessons all these mistakes that people did because I literally just, because you guys shared it on your stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's literally tens of thousands of people who follow your stories. You're sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what brought the community to you, or how did you connect with people that you didn't even know?
I think it was how I was able to connect with people. Well, first off, when I joined the reselling community, it was much smaller. So was it 4 or 5 years ago? It was kind of just starting. Most of us, we had all what I know they was call certain accounts the big accounts or whatever, but they weren't big. It was just kind of starting. So I feel like that was a big part of it. I wasn't intimidated because everybody was just it was so much more chill. We were just like, oh, what did you thrift today? Or, oh, look, I got this great sale. And it wasn't intimidating. It wasn't what it is now. And it was for me, like I was saying, I didn't have any reseller friends. I didn't even know one other reseller.
Mm-hmm.
So to accidentally trip in and fall into this reseller community, I could finally have coworkers. I could finally, have somebody where I say, oh my God, I only got 10 items at thrift today and my goal was 20, or, oh, this customer, and they actually understood what I meant. That was the first time because I had been reselling almost 5 years alone. So that commonality that we all kind of need and crave and just a little bit of brainstorming and just having someone else have stored like mine that I met. One of the first people I met on here, she hasn't been very active, Second Chance. She had a store and I remember approaching her on Instagram because she had like pictures of some items she listed. And I was like, oh, did you just list those? And we just kind of started talking about our stores. And that was the first time that I actually talked to another reseller. And it just felt so comforting and good to have somebody who understood what I was talking about.
You've been doing a lot of this on your own. I remember when I first met you, and I cheated because reselling has always been a secondary income for me. So when I first was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't understand this niche. I cannot rely on it. So my reseller income, I've been fortunate to just reinvest it, but you have transitioned into now having your own help. So how are you able to do that? Because people always hope to get to where you are.
Well, first you hit on something really good and super important when we talk about going full time on the stress is if you are able to reinvest all your profits. Maybe you live at home because, a lot of people start young, so they're still at home. You live at home or you have a full-time job, maybe your husband or your spouse or your wife, whatever it is. If you are able to reinvest all of your profits, that is ginormous and that is huge. And that is such a great leg up. That is such an advantage. And I always say when people ask me, like they say, oh, I'm able to reinvest. And I'm like, yes, keep doing that. Keep reinvesting. Because for me, that was not something I was able to do. Like I say, I'm a single parent. Somebody has to pay the bills. And that part was hard. So I feel like that was a big challenge for me. But so yes, I finally got to the place where I could hire help. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to have Amazon go the way it's going if I didn't have help. And a little help goes a long way. Like first I let go of taking the pictures and then I let go of doing my listing. So that's all I have help on right now, which is huge though. I don't have to take pictures. I don't have to measure and I don't have to list. I just basically ship and source. So yeah, it's been great.
I think, I don't know if this happened to you or not, but it happened to both Tech and myself. While you were on this journey, did you have like a killer month or some flip that helped you get to that next level? Because I feel like everyone starts with a little bit of money, but it's not that you get lucky, but if you keep looking for supply, you're going to run into something that's awesome.
I mean, I feel like I have had my breaks. For me, I've had like personal stuff happen. So every time I felt like it was going good, then something happened. But that's life. We all go through that. But I would say the end of last year is when I was able to finally get some debts paid off that were really hindering me. And my cash flow then, I was able to get more bang for my buck because I wasn't going towards my debts that I had. So that freed up. So if anything for me, it wasn't this killer deal that I found. It was that I was finally able to eliminate some debt that I had. So then thus when it was paid off, then I was like, oh, my spending capital just went up. And then once my spending capital went up, like so now we're already in Q4 again, but last year in Q4 is when I started to see the light, where things started to get better. And then that's why I say 2020 was serendipitous. Of course, COVID has been so bad and I would never obviously wish that. And there is a part of me that does feel guilty that sales went so good because I know so many people that did not have the same situation. But it was serendipitous because I finally had more money than I had ever had to spending capital. And then the opportunity came when we went locked down and I had the opportunity to buy these products that were selling so good. But if this would have happened back when I still had my debts and things that I had to pay, I wouldn't have been able to jump on the opportunity because I wouldn't have had the money. So I was very fortunate that this situation, I was able to buy product when I actually had a good amount of spending capital. So then Q4 last year got better. And then March, April, when I started selling so much more on Amazon, that took me over the next hump, if that makes sense.
It does. I want to ask you, this is a little personal, but how are you able to build up your confidence? You are a different person than when I first met you. The personal stuff happens to everyone, but you overcame that. Is there something you did differently or did it just take time?
I don't know. I feel like we're always going through it. In my mind, I call it the triple. I know this is not pornographic, I promise. I call it the triple Ds because I had debt, death, and depression. And those were my big three. I call it in my mind the triple Ds. I'll try not to cry because, every time I talk about my dad, but, so I had depression when I first left my job and then I kind of got over it. Actually, eBay honestly helped me get over it. But then, when I met you, I was probably at the peak of my depression. I didn't lose my dad. My dad passed away, and that led to a lot of depression. My dad is everything. When he passed away, I felt like I lost 10 people because he was so many things to me. He was my dad. He was my mentor. He was my friend. He was my cheerleader. He was like all these things, my confidant. He filled all these roles for me. So when he went to heaven, I felt like I lost a tribe. I'm very lucky that I have an amazing family, my sisters and my mom. I always think I won the lotto with both my parents because I don't know, and my son, of course. But I didn't know grief like that. And so being self-employed and being the only person, when I got depressed, it was hard to work. So when I wasn't performing what I normally was performing. And that's when the debt came. And then the debt just led to more depression because it's like, oh my God, Monica, I can't believe you put yourself in this position after all these years and you were doing so good. And then the negative self-talk just swallowed me whole. It was so bad. And, when you're the only one in your house, I would tell myself, like, you have to just keep pushing. You will get to a point where you'll see the light at the end. Like, just keep pushing. But I wouldn't say there's any secret other than getting up and doing as good as you can and trying to just talk yourself out of it. But I finally got to this place where I felt like I had a little bit of closure with my dad's passing, and things started to get better. And I feel like once I got out of the debt last year is when that was like the last thing that needed to be lifted.
Tech talks about like, sometimes you need some conflict, some stuff to overcome to be a successful real entrepreneur, business person, because compared to what happened to you personally, eBay is kind of a piece of cake. eBay is almost the fairest thing because if you put the work in, it will reciprocate, but life's not always like that.
Correct. Yes, 100%.
I mean, I don't 100%. Want to like generalize, but it seems like a lot of great business people and eBayers came from rough backgrounds. It's very common.
Yeah, I was listening to the Ed Milet show. I don't know if you listened to that podcast, but one interesting thing he always points out is that when he first started his podcast, just like you interviewing other people, he interviews like celebrities and super successful people. And he was like, gosh, I'm so excited to learn from them. And I want to see what's the common denominator in them. Him thinking it's going to be the determination and their grit, something like that. What he has realized, what he talks about in one of his last podcasts is, it was not that they don't have that, but the common denominator in all the people, the successful people that he interviewed, has been that they have some kind of trauma or have suffered in some way. And I thought that was really interesting.
Heck, do you have some thoughts on that?
Everybody has their ups and downs, their issues, their things they have to get over. I mean, not everything is always going to be perfect. And, the way how things have been for me, I wouldn't change anything in the world because it's made me who I am. And I'm forever grateful for that. And, a lot of that is the extra push that people need. So like Monica said, if you're working for yourself and you do end up in a rut, like you can go downhill real quick because then there's no longer money being brought in. So now you're going in debt. So like you said, the D. So like, if you can't self-start today and you lay in the bed, nothing's getting done, your business is going to suffer. If your business suffer, your bills aren't getting paid. If you have kids, there's no food on the table for the kids. So like that's something that drives me even to this day, that if I don't get up out of bed, like there's still going to be bills. My son still needs to eat food. Like just because we do have some level of success, we still have to keep going and still be hungry. Like we're not there or to that point yet. And, for me, I don't celebrate any wins. I don't look at the end of the day and pat myself on the back. None of that stuff matters. It's just, what do we got to do tomorrow? What do we got to do tomorrow? What do we got to do tomorrow? And, when the focus is just providing for yourself and your family tomorrow, then you continue to stay hungry, because it's real easy once you start to get success. And there's even people in the group that has brought this up, that they list a whole lot and then they start getting a lot of sales and then they start getting lazy. But like the listing and a lot of sales should be reinforcement to keep going, not to fall off and do the opposite. So like when things are going good, it's not going to go good forever. It's not always going to be good or great. So you have to keep pounding at it, keep setting yourself, to be in the best position possible, because, tomorrow I could literally get hit by a bus, and like, I need to know that my family is okay. Because if I would have said, oh, we're good, and like 6 years ago, I said, oh, we're good, we don't got to do anything no more, and then I go outside and get hit by a bus, where's my family at then? So like, there's no plan to life. Like there's no plan to this. So just got to continue to do the best that you can, continue to build your business, take the money, reinvest, take the money, acquire assets, and keep building as much as you can for your family. Because, at any given time, something can change, whether it's medical, whether it's, a pandemic, like a real one. What if this pandemic was killing 25% of people? We'd be living in a whole different society. And there's nothing that can prevent that. So, savings is very important. Keeping your debts low is very important. Having all of your avenues streamlined is very important, and just keep hammering at it every single day is very, very, very important, no matter what, because no one knows what's going to come tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a constant moving target. Like Tech says, he's not patting himself on the back. Like, I feel the same way. Just because things have gotten a little better, no way do I feel like, oh, I've made it, I'm just going to rest. No, if anything, I'm like, pedal to the metal, let's move this ish, because we got to go now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's going good. And that, like Tech says, is for me reinforcement of like, oh, okay, time to stack right now because this is so important. I've gone through this hardship. I have gotten sick, and when I had just started eBay full time, so I've been there, and it's like it's never to this point where I feel comfortable. I mean, I'm not to the point where I would feel that way, but it's just a moving target. Okay, we hit this. Now, next time we got to hit this number. And it doesn't mean that you can't. I mean, I feel like you should feel, there should be moments where you feel proud of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I have to stop myself and actually give myself a compliment, because when I was depressed, I had gotten to this point where anytime I had a positive thought of myself, I felt conceited, which is so bad. That's so bad to have a positive thought and make yourself, oh my God, why are you being conceited? That is so bad. So now I have to tell myself these positive things when I think them. And like, doesn't mean I'm not going to work hard. Doesn't mean I'm not going to stop. Doesn't mean we get off this phone, I'm not going to finish my shipments downstairs and I'm not going to go sourcing, because I am. Like, we don't stop. But I also think it's important to give yourself some boost of confidence. Like, oh, you're doing this. I had to gain my confidence back. And I feel like for me, I need that moment of, you did this, great job, but let's do this tomorrow, you know?
So something that I'm curious about with you, because me and you, we both kind of took the same path of, carrying all of the weight and all of the burden of this business solo for very long, maybe even perhaps too long in hindsight.
Yeah.
But I think you and I have similar thinking that, we try to keep the cost down as much as possible, reinvest as much as possible, even if it's to our deficit of, no sleep, no social life, nothing. Just, we have to do it all because it's our baby at the end of the day, and we feel totally responsible for everything. So, within the last year, I did go out and get some help, and you said you have help now. So, what does that transition make for your business, and then also for maybe your sanity and your personal life? Because for me, I'm doing more work every single day as a unit, and I get finished every day at 4 o'clock. So, like,
I know.
I'm done with work by 4, and we're doing double what we used to do. So, like, in hindsight, should I have done that quicker? Maybe, I don't know. But like, so for you, you were a one woman show forever for 9-10 years. Just started getting help. What has that transition been like? Because I know what it was like for me, and it was very seamless. The training was seamless, and it wasn't as big as a deal as I thought it was going to be. So what was it like for you? What has changed?
I think I know. That's why I loved talking when you and I first met, because we literally had the same situations. And also, I don't know if you know, Chris, Tech was a single dad. Our sons are like the same age. But back to that. I feel like you hit the nail on the head. For me, is the sanity part. That it's because I'm not used to being able to be done at 7 or 8. I'm used to being done at 10 or 11. So when I'm done at like 7 or 8, and I'm like, whoa, the listings are done. Like, this is so weird. I haven't like relaxed and watched a show. Usually if I have the TV on, I'm working. I'm listing, I'm taking photos, I'm boxing, I'm doing, if I have a show and I'm like, oh, I watch this show, but I'm working. So it made me realize, and I knew this, that I need to spend more time with my family and all this stuff. But I feel like, yeah, I definitely got my sanity back. And like I was saying, for me, it was never about delegating. With my previous career, I delegated so much. I feel like there I was fine. I never worried about like, oh, the pictures have to be perfect, or, oh, they had listings have to be this. That for me was not an issue. I was like, this is not hard. It wasn't a control thing. It was purely about capital, purely about money. But yeah, it just feels like, wow, finally. I always say, don't take as long as me. Don't take as long as me to get help. If you can get help and delegate any part of it, do it. It's only going to make you grow faster and give you some of your sanity back,
So pre-employee, what were you doing like per day listing wise, and what are you doing now?
I will say pre-pandemic, because things have changed with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so pre-pandemic, I was probably listing, definitely never as much as you. Maybe 250 items a week.
Mm-hmm. And now a lot of your focus is on Amazon. So I'm just wondering, what is your eBay looking like now?
Well, now I probably am doing about 150 a week, but I'm trying to up that. I feel like what's happening now with eBay is not my new normal. It's just that after we got locked down and the thrifting stopped and then Amazon took off, I feel like I'm just now finding my footing on what my new normal is going to be. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing now, that's not what I want to be forever. So I mean, I would forward, yeah.
Are you going to focus more on Amazon, you as a person, and have the employee kind of run eBay in a whole? You just source and you ship?
Yeah. Source. I would eventually like her to ship as well. But for right now, sourcing and shipping. And that's the thing, like, I actually enjoy thrifting. I know a few of my friends that went from eBay to Amazon during this pandemic as well. And they're like, I never want to go into a thrift store again. And this is great. I like doing it this way better. And I know you and I, Tech, have talked about, and I don't know if you go as much anymore, but like, I enjoy it. It feels therapeutic. I like looking for stuff. It's a different kind of high versus when I go sourcing for Amazon. It's just different, because I'm getting 10 of X. I don't care what the product is, if it's selling. But with eBay, I don't know if it's because I've just been doing it for so long, but that's my therapy time, in my own head I listen to like a feel good podcast and I look through racks and I already know what I'm looking for and I enjoy it. So I don't.
Meditation for you.
Yeah, it's meditation for me. And one of the things I was thinking about the other day, another thing that's not talked about a lot, and we're talking about Amazon, eBay, thrifting, is the variable of reselling and your business model taking into account your personality. So what I may not like, obviously someone else may love, and that's great. But it's like your personality and what you like and don't like is going to help shape what your business model looks like. And so I feel like that's really, really important. And when you go back to let's not compare, because, we all do that. But I think about my personality. And just because I'm making more money over here, but that's not bringing my soul any satisfaction. And don't get me wrong, I'm so blessed and happy that have this other income, and I'm so extremely thankful. But I know myself. I know what I need to make myself happy. And I like to thrift, and that gives me peace.
I have to point out that with thrifting, with sourcing, with meeting all these people, it's made me a lot more conservative. I've seen people get suspended or fall below standard or see all these things that can change your income so dramatically I think when you become a
Yes.
reseller, you basically learn to save for winter. You're now, sometimes when you go thrifting, you find nothing. And I think it's not
Yeah.
like other businesses where if you're used to a 9 to 5 and then you switch over to reselling, you're going to be, if you go to 12 stores in a row and don't find anything, you've got to go to the store number 13. You just got to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like that post that you put up, like showing that 98% of the thrift store is not worth picking up.
Yeah. Yeah. I've wanted to count, I don't know how many times, and I'll do like a row. You can try it. I firmly believe that most people are between 1% and 2%, mostly on the lower of that. So like 1.1, 1.2, and you can do a small sample size, do one side and count them. Count them and you will see. So yeah, most people are picking up about 1%. So those people that say we take all the good stuff, we're leaving 99% behind. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of items in a store, and you, if lucky, depending on what your, goals are, some people come away with 10, some people 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And we're on the high end. I would say like me, and I know we were talking about this one time about how much we leave behind, but we're on the high end of the brands we're looking, of the knowledge of the brands, and look at how much we're only getting.
Hardly anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was at the thrift and Mecca called me and she goes, "What are you doing?" I say, "Just counting how many items are on the rack until I find the next item." And she goes, "Oh, you do that too?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm up to 752. And then it just goes 53, 54, 55. Just literally count how many items on the rack and how many you pull out. If you sit there and do it, it's truly amazing. It is like 1%.
Yeah.
It's definitely less than that. It's insane.
Yeah. It's crazy. So that's a good argument when people say we take all the good stuff,
Also, there's items that don't look like they would sell that you learn along the way. And I met a reseller who lives in Idaho, and for her, a premium brand is like Old Navy. They're that demographic. Everyone is making 20 grand a year. It's a really poor area, and she still kills it because she knows which Old Navy sells well, which Gap sells well. She's like, these are the most powerful brands in America. It just, they've got to be really, really selective.
Yeah, I believe it. When I first started selling, I mentioned that I was only going on Dollar Day. So, Dollar Day, they do color tags. So the oldest tag is on sale. So say it's purple. That's been on the floor. That means it's been on the floor for 4 weeks. So that's the leftover. That is the Old Navy, the Gap, Forever 21, Charlotte Russe. Yeah, sometimes you'll find a good one in there. But no, majority of what I was finding was mall brands like that. Big box stores like that. And was I making $100 an item? No, I was making $5, $10 an item, but I was selling so many. I mean, on Dollar Day, even then I had gotten to $20K a month just off Dollar Day. So does it mean a lot of work? Yes. And at the end of the day, it's all hard. I always say like, it's all hard. Pick your hard because it's all hard.
Pick your hard. Love it.
Yeah, it's all hard. So if you want to go into Amazon and you have money, okay, great. Well, you have all this money. That's your edge. That's your advantage. Now go drop 10K on this, 10K on that, or 5K or whatever. Well, now your hard is the stress. The stress that comes with dropping that much money. That's still hard. And then you got to find, and then you worry about your account suspended. And I've had my account suspended. Now with eBay, when you have low capital, what is hard is the time. You have to exchange what you don't have in money in time. Time is your currency. So I'm spending $1 an item. I get 100 items, but what I have to do to get to X dollar amount per day, I have to flip so many, right? I have to flip so many of these low dollar. I was in the low dollar, high volume game. And that's hard because it took all my time. So it's all hard. You have to pick your heart, and that goes back to your personality and your financial constraints. That obviously plays a factor, and some people are fine. I know some people, like your friend you were just saying, where they do have money, but they like playing in that pool of, low dollar, high volume, and that's fine. It's all hard. Pick your heart.
Yeah, hard. I think it's the sourcing part. I want to mention that both of you list like crazy. Tech is talking about like essentially listing everything within 24 hours. If you had that rule of listing everything within 24 hours, that would solve 50% of your reselling problems.
100%. And I was saying, I didn't know what a death pile was, and I really don't mean to be like, pointing fingers or anything like that at all, but just looking at it from a business point of view. If a business consultant were to come in your business and say, where do we have leaks here? Where do we have inefficiencies? And you were to say, oh, I have this pile that's been sitting here of unlisted inventory for X amount of weeks, that's an inventory leak. Why? That's a very, very inefficient business model. So I agree. And it's just something that kind of feel like it's not taken seriously. Like, list your stuff.
Tech always says, do you ever walk into a store and say, what's for sale in the back room? That's not out here.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's never happened to me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, people don't ask what else do you not have listed in your eBay store? Can you tell me about those things? No one is messaging you that.
Yeah, it's an inefficient business model. Having unlisted inventory is an extremely inefficient business model in any business, especially in the sales business.
So I want to talk about your 3Ds again, because for me, even though I can't fully relate to this, I remember reading a book by Mel Robbins, and she said, I was crushed by debt. My kids are running around. I've got death in the family. And also, she was in the middle of getting a divorce. And
she had another D.
And she had another D. And the kids are like, wow, what are you doing? And she's like, all I could do was hit snooze. I could not get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. And I was thinking, wow. And then she came up with this method. She's like, if I can count to 3, if I'm not up trying to change my life within 3 seconds, that means I'm hitting snooze again. So she just taught herself, okay, we got to start moving in the right direction, because this is only, you think it can't get worse. It can definitely keep going. You got to build the momentum the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that when you guys talk about eBay, you always say that the momentum of an active store. That's something I feel like both you and Tech always preach, active store. If you were eBay, would you reward the active store or the non-active store?
Yeah, for sure. Active.
I just look at it as like a snowball rolling downhill, and like a snowball just bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just going to keep rolling. So like the more momentum it has, the harder it is to stop. And like they say, like items in motion stay in motion. So I just try to keep everything motioning in the right direction. I don't ever want to have like anything detrimental or anything that is not a positive every single day. So I just try to make it, to the best of my ability, the momentum going in the right direction every single day. And I think that by doing that, it helps, your sanity, your mental health. As long as at the end of the day, you've done everything within your power to the best of your ability, you can't beat yourself up for it after, or you can't get on yourself for it. But like, if instead of listing those 10, you watched Tool Time or something, like that's something you can beat yourself up over. But like, if you've done everything possible to put your business in the right direction and to be successful, you can't leave the job or your desk or your eBay store other than feeling like I did the best that I could.
Yeah, 100% agree. Active. And it's all the things, back to when we're talking about the messages, it's all the things. I mean, there's always something to do. Even when with the thrift clothes, I was dwindling down on my items. I always tell myself, at least end and sell similar. At the very least, send offers, at the very least. So there's the answering the messages. They're starting a sale. They're sending out offers. Obviously, there's listing. There is getting conversions, sales. There is ending items selling similar. That was like what kept me afloat, I swear, in times where I ran out of inventory. But there's always something to do. There's revising stale listings, which I don't revise anymore. I will end them and sell similar. But I agree, there's always something to do.
But from the outside looking in, like eBay and reselling looks like so easy, but you just named off 20 different things that you have to be an absolute expert in. And you didn't even get to shipping. You didn't get to photography. You didn't get to hardly anything. But there's so many different hats we have to wear and be an expert at every single one of those in order to be as successful as possible. And that's something that, a lot of people don't understand or don't see from the outside looking in, that there's so many things that we have to do on a daily basis. And that schedule and that routine, if you have that, the schedule and the routine, that will just lead to the success.
For sure. And then I feel like that's what, though, not all, but going back to the stress of this is your full-time income, and we're making sure we hit all that versus knowing you don't need it, knowing this is just a hobby. But how do you have then, this is your hobby, but have the mentality of a full-time where you are hitting all those things?
You guys are the kings of king and queen of one-liners. So so Monica, you have one about being greedy that I think is important.
Don't be a greedy bitch. I'm not in the storage business. I'm in the sales business. Those are the two that circle the community the most.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
The one about not in the storage business and the sales business, I probably have brought that up 4 times so far in the podcast, because that one just rung a huge bell with me that, like, I don't want to be in the storage business. I want to sell stuff. And the faster and quicker we can turn over the inventory, get the cash flow, make money, like, that's what we're all trying to do. Like, we're not trying to pay storage facilities and get bigger and bigger and bigger warehouses. Like, if in my ideal situation, like, my warehouse would shrink because I'm selling everything. But like at the end of the day, that's not real. But like, when those offers come in and they're like $2 off or $5 off, like, do I want to store this item or do I want this $25? Let me take the 25, reinvest it into 5 more items. Those 5 more items I sell for $20 each. I turn that 25 into 125 and just keep doing that 1,000 times rather than pay storage on this item for another 4 months before somebody else wants it. So you saying that changed my whole business about 1.5 years or 2 years ago.
Oh, thank you. Somebody, when I first got on Instagram, and someone was like, "What's your business model?" And it just came out, "Well, don't be a greedy bitch." And that, and I get it, like, and I was being silly, but I'm like, no, that's really my business model. I mean, I had come from selling things on dollar days, so I already learned from the beginning to let things go. And so I wasn't married to my inventory. Like, I'm trying to pay my bills. So $1 today is better than $2 in 2 weeks, when I don't know what's going to be due that day, So I just learned to turn things over fast because I needed the cash flow. It's like, I need the money now. And then also, kind of like, speaking of momentum, sales bring more sales, and we know that. So that's only going to help make your store more active. I always think of an active store as lights on in your house. So when your store is dead, your house is dark. All the rooms are dark. It's dead. There's no activity in there. Now you started to get sales. Like, lights light up in the room. Oh, the kitchen light's on. Now the living room lights on. Now we got messages coming. We got offers coming in. More lights are like coming on. And like, I want to have a lit ass house. I'm trying to have a lit ass house. So I kind of just always think about that.
That's awesome. So now I'm going to go to one of the tech one-liners that are deadly. He was mentioning that he has 25,000 hooks in the water, and they're all baited. And the bait is like the right keywords, the right title. It's not just they're baited. They're ready for a fish to bite.
Yeah.
And we're all in the same ocean, but that made me think. You know what? I want as many hooks as possible baited in the water. Because it's, I was just thinking, if you have that many hooks in the water, you can't have a bad day almost.
Yeah.
You're going to catch fish.
Yeah. And then you add in text relevancy in his categories. It's like a recipe for, instead of a recipe for disaster, it's a recipe for success.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, that same lake that I got the 25,000 hooks in, like one store might have 150 hooks in the same lake. And there's only a certain amount of fish. So that's the way that I look at it, as like, I want to dominate that entire lake. And that lake in a whole is eBay in a whole. So if you have 500 items, I want to have 25,000 hooks of the same item. So that's just the way that I look at it, that I want the best chance of a fish. If they're going to hit a hook, they're going to hit one of mine.
I started, we always talk about stalking other people's stores to get an idea of what they're doing. When I started looking at how many multi-orders happen when your store starts to get bigger, so you guys both have multi-orders, you also have repeat customers. So people there's a lot of people who follow both of your stores, and that makes a big difference. People, if you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, you build something over time, those customers give you a huge advantage. You don't have to find a new customer.
Right, yeah.
It was just the day I was telling you in the morning when I was at the warehouse, and I never did this previously, but we were talking about like multi-quantity orders. And that morning I had 88 orders, 88 items spanning over 15 or 20 multi-quantity orders. So I had 15 people buy 88 items from me that day. And
crazy.
If you have a small store, you don't have the opportunity for them to like really go shopping with you. Like if you like Miami Dolphins gear, I have 300 pieces. So come shopping with me. You have one person to deal with. You pay one shipping cost. You don't have to keep track of 25 packages coming or going. So like if you can stock your store, I'm a big believer of a big store. If you can stock your store with, like items, people will go shopping with you 10 times that day. When they get their items, they're going to come back shop with you again. So I have like maybe around 10 people that literally buy something from me every single day. So that helps huge on a daily basis. Because what if there is a slow day? You still have these 10 people that are going to come through and buy stuff. And that helps so much every single day.
Yeah, for sure. And again, another similarity that Tech and I found that we had is that we buy this around the same brand, style, sizes, types of items. So we do have those repeat customers and our loyal customers, and that just naturally is going to encourage multi-item checkouts, but also I just lost my train of thought. I had a point.
Well, I want to piggyback on what you just said. You both sell in the category, what I consider everyday value. You're not only going for home runs. I think that's important. If you're trying to build the cash flow, there's stores where you see people have everything priced at market. There's not going to be cash flow in that store.
True, yeah.
And when you do, increase your sales on a daily basis, increase your listings on a daily basis, you're not so handcuffed or tied to like 3 sales for the day where you have to maximize every single penny per sale. So like you are able to cut deals, you are able to, take a couple bucks off, and because you're already making your money on X amount of sales per day. So that guy that you gave the deal and you gave him $12 off, even though you kind of only wanted to give him $8 or $6 off. That guy got a deal. His sale is just extra because you've already made your money everywhere else. You give this guy the deal. Maybe he gets his item and he goes, man, I got a deal from that guy last time. Let me come back and shop with this guy again, because you're not so hard pressed for the sales. Like the days when I had like 3 sales, 5 sales, and like you say, we have bills to pay. Like you have to counter offer and get your price, because you need every single dollar to pay the next bill. So like if you have a larger inventory, you are listing more items, you have way more leeway in the deals that you can offer people, and that's going to turn over more sales and more money, more cash flow, more profit. It's all interconnected.
Yeah, for sure. And I just thought of my point, and it was from you, Tech, when we're talking about how we buy the same styles, brands, sizes, types of items all the time. And one time when you and I were talking, you were like, we were talking about sourcing different kinds of items, and you were like, well, I'm not set up for that. And that was the point. And what Tech was talking about is he didn't want to source, let's say, a radio, or not that there's anything wrong with that, but just his shipping station, his workflow, the way he has his streamlined process, it's for the stuff he's getting now. And so all that's going to do is cause a clog in his efficiency. And I was going through this moment where I was trying to kind of get into other niches, and it was just causing me backups, because I'm like, no, I'm a clothing seller. Why am I doing this? And when Tech said that, he's like, no, I'm not set up for that. I'm not set up for that. And I'm like, neither am I. Why am I doing this? And again, back to your person, not only the efficiency, but back to my personality. Like, that's not even anything I like. Why did I just got influenced, by watching a story, and then I'm here where I am trying to do something different. And not that I'm trying to discourage trying different things, but it's when you are making realizations of what is so when I looked at my backed up inventory of things stuff I had to test and stuff, and I'm like, I am not set up for this. So whatever is going to keep your streamlined process streamlined, efficient, fast, and anything that's going to cause clogs in that efficiency, I've learned to just get rid of it. I'm not set up for that. Like Tech said, I'm not set up for that.
I think that's huge, because in Chris's morning call, there's a guy named Don. He sells all old electronics and stuff. If you gave Don a $500 polo jacket, he's not set up for that. Like, he's set up to test electronics. He's set up to, he has a whole workbench, a whole shipping station. Like, he wants Pioneer stereos. He doesn't want a $500 polo jacket. And like, I don't want $500 stereo. I want a $15 polo jacket. Like, that's what I want.
Yes, that's what we want. Yeah, and he's great. And why he should stay in that niche, because I remember him doing so good. He has great sales with those kinds of hard goods that he does. And it's like, but I think that sometimes we get influenced, because we see an opportunity. And I think as resellers, as entrepreneurs, we're naturally
curious.
Hungry, and we're naturally curious. It's like built into our DNA. So of course we see a story, we see a YouTube, we see a social media post. We're like, wow, that's a great idea. And you're pumped for that person. You're like, I pass those all the time. Let me go try. Why wouldn't you? And you go and you test it. And hey, you may find that that's your thing. You may find, wow, I like this. Then do that, but you may also find that thing you try to incorporate into your workflow has been sitting there. And I talk about not having a death pile. That's the only time I did, was of like untested things. But I'm like, why am I don't enjoy this. And it was just causing me stress. But
I know Chris was talking about settle on your niche. If you want to get a couple things here and there, that's the icing on the cake or the on top. You do that more so for fun. But you can't let it turn into a death pile. There's a very fine line of, I don't have this adapter. I need this piece. I don't know how to test this, because then that fun can become a hindrance. So like 100%. Like Chris said, like it's cool to do it, but like if you're really trying to streamline everything, then, I want to be laser focused on that stuff. And I don't have it in me anymore to go outside the realm of everything that I know, which is no fun. It sucks. Chris is more interesting at the party, as he says, and I'm just standing there. I have nothing to talk about, so it's boring.
But
no, I mean, this is like, I don't want to take too much time, but like, I have tried everything. And I think, if I could go back and talk to people and say, like, you know what, I was like one of the largest Poshmark sellers. I did Mercari. I built things like robots. I've done everything. I made my own products. I tried every single kind of digital product. And I can tell you that there's, tech talk, the way I look at tech, and I'm like, the way that he does it or the way that you do it, Monica, if you stay on one thing, eventually you will get rich for sure. Some people don't like Grant Cardone, but his saying of get rich for sure, not quickly, something like that.
Yeah. If you focus, get rich for sure.
Yeah. Don't, or go ahead.
Don't get rich quick, get rich for sure.
Yeah. So I can tell you for sure, do not try everything. I can tell you that as fun as it is, as interesting as I am at the party, I think I would rather roll up in a nice car than be interesting. Like it's guaranteed to work, because this is going back to the initial thing. When you focus, you take these massive shortcuts. You start to learn, okay, I'm going to go to this section of the store where I'm going to guaranteed find these things. Then if you get streamlined, then you can actually explain how someone can help you. If you're like, you know what, I need you to help me go find profitable items, come home and list every single category. How are you going to teach someone to do that? It's impossible. Yeah.
And like you said, when you do focus on one thing, like, you will eventually figure it out, because there's so many things in my business that I had to figure out, because I don't know anybody else who's listing 250 one-off items per day. So like all the hurdles that I've gone through, I don't have anyone to ask and say, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And it's taken a very, very, very long time to get it figured out. But if I was dabbling over here, dabbling over there, I would have never gotten it figured out. Yeah. Once you get everything figured out and you get the kinks worked out and you get everything streamlined, that's when you can put a match on it and let it explode. But just by doing it over and over again, you'll eventually get it figured out. But like, there's this opportunity, with Instagram, social media, you are able to bounce ideas off of other people. And I probably still don't talk to as many people as I should. Chris is like the only other reseller that I talk to. Monica, you're always busy, but that's another thing. But Chris is like the only person that I talk to.
You talk to me first.
I know, but like, you're able to bounce ideas off of people.
Yeah.
And, it's not as much banging your head against the wall. As you don't need to do that anymore, because there's already things that work and that are proven. Like back 8 years ago, like nothing worked, nothing was proven. So like, we've already banged our head against the wall. Like, see what people that are doing that are successful, and take something from them and incorporate it into your own thing.
Yeah,
100%.
One of my like things that's super annoying is I'm everyone's friend to talk to about reselling. So it's hard to get work done. So it's kind of nice to just be. There's so many resellers who are just quietly in the background killing it.
There are.
Yeah.
I always say, this is what other thing I would say. I would say, besides Larry, watch me, I'm gone. The biggest accounts are not the biggest. The biggest when I'm talking about social media.
Yeah.
The biggest accounts are not the biggest accounts where it counts.
Yeah.
It's not a indicator of, what they're doing. Like, I've met people on the down low that are Poshmark sellers that are killing it. They are not active on social media, and I'm just like, oh my god,
it's a different skill.
Other eBay,
it's different.
They just don't want to. So same thing.
Social media is something I'm not at. That's a whole nother skill, and like, I might post once every 45 days, but I'm I'm just
Yeah.
focused on doing work every day, but I'm not good at that.
I was looking at
Well,
the largest Amazon seller ever is Pharma Packs, and
yeah, Pharma
he
Pack.
has interviews that have like 100 views,
No,
and
yeah,
no one
yeah,
cares because it's different. It's also really hard to relate to people who are doing that kind of level,
yeah,
so it's almost like it's crowded
yeah.
at the bottom. Like everyone put the
Hmm.
work in, and once you move up a little bit, you can have some breathing room. Let that be your light at the end of the tunnel. But whenever I
Yeah.
reach out to people who are at that level, they have time.
Hmm.
That's the magical thing about getting to the next level. You can actually get some time back.
Yeah. And I feel like you just hit on something that I've been realizing um, since my business has taken a turn is like, wow, it's like I've been working all this time because it was crowded at the bottom, right? I've been there a long, long time. But you want to do things that are going to start to create separators, so things that have a low barrier to entry. It's crowded there. It's crowded there.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been there most of the. So what are you going to do to start creating separators so you can get to the next year? Still competition. Remember, we know it's hard. It's all hard. But how can you at least create 1 degree of separation from where you were and the rest in the pool there? Okay, you could be more experienced. You could be more knowledgeable. You could have more spending capital. You could have better sourcing opportunities. So you start to stack separators,
That's right.
and that it does get easier. It does get easier. Like tech being done at 4 p.m., but he has 500 businesses. I call him Heyman from Living Color. Only the older generation knows that way. The guy has like all these hats because he has all these businesses, just killing it. But tech has created so many separators.
Yeah.
So he can be done at 4. He has, just in his eBay business alone, the size of his store, the types of items he has, how fast he is at listing, his knowledge, his capital. He has so many separators. But so that's what I keep telling myself, get to the next level, Monica, get to the next thing that's going to separate you from the pool, from that pool of people. Not there's anything wrong with it. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean this as growing your business.
And that's something that I've never even thought about until you just said it. And I think that is probably the reason why I'm the way that I am, because in my head, I'm still in the crowd in the bottom. I'd never thought that I've created all of those separators. As you were saying it, I think the thing that I created that separates and that helps is that the work ethic and listing 250 per day. Like that's my biggest separator that I've created. And I've never even thought of that until you just said it.
All those separators are bricks, and you were building and building and building. And before you got to the 250, you had already created a large separator from when you were doing 100 a day by yourself over years, years. So yours is that consistency. That consistency is your big separator. But
that's the
takes
big one.
Work.
Yep.
Yeah. I've never even thought about any of that.
Work is work. Work. But people won't talk about it because it's not sexy. It's not the new flash Lamborghini. No, I see the quote that's like, work looks like you in overalls.
Yeah, work looks like overalls.
No one wants to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. But work.
Success looks like or I forgot what the quote, but yeah, that's a great saying. And
you know what I'm talking about.
Yesterday was the first day ever. I listed 200 items, right? And it wasn't even me. I needed a team to do it. But I remember somebody reached out and was like, wow. And I was like, talk to me in like 10 years. Anybody can do it one day. Like, it's all about can you do it over a long period of time? Consistency is the differentiator, and everyone can do that. Everyone can be consistent.
Yeah.
Should be the biggest
100%
diamond that you get out of this whole podcast is anyone can do that part of it.
Yes. And really quick, I had to look up the quote. We can't end it on that. It is, opportunity is missed by people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because, I send people to tech and your Instagram pages, and sometimes I get the response back like, but I don't want to do that.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. It's a lot of work. That's why I'm with you on when people say they want to go full time, only because I know how hard it was for me, and I know the stress that comes with it, but I don't want to discourage people. But back to tech and the consistency and the separators is that if you're someone who is just starting, and maybe you were like me where you need this, maybe you have a job, but you need this to buy more groceries or to pay for your car or whatever it is, I would find comfort and solace in knowing that it's not anything that's going to be talent. It's just doing the work. I'm going to list 5 items every day. And I don't care what happens around me because I'm going to list these 5 items a day, 5 every day. And look what's going to happen after I do that for a year, for a month, for 2 months, for 6 months, for 1 year. And you're only going to get better. And it's only going to create more momentum and easier step off to the next 5 or the next 10 or the next, how many ever you want to list. But I feel like right now there's just so much opportunity. But like that quote says, it looks like someone dressed in overalls and looks like work. But I find comfort in knowing that it's not talent. And maybe we've gotten to a place where having consistency is a talent.
It's like a muscle like everything else. And I feel like if you look at our stores right now, there's nothing in the stores that people can't get. It's just common things.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another thing.
Common.
You don't need magical inventory. You really don't.
No. Like a good example of, you said your friend in Idaho and how I was doing it when I first started, dollar day, things that have been left on the floor for a month. It wasn't Gucci and Louis Vuitton or even, Saks type stuff. It was Old Navy, Forever 21, Charlotte Russe, those kind of things.
I have to.
I think to get the best results, like you have to, like if you work full time 9 to 5, you have to work full time 9 to 5 in eBay. You can't just work 8 to 2, 8 to 12, 8 to 11. You have to put the same amount of time into the eBay business that you would have put into that guy's business to make him all the money. So that's why, like, from day one, I was putting in 9 to 5, 9 to 7, 9 till finished. Like, that's the part that is going to separate you from being successful or not successful, is treating it like a real job. 9 to 5, have a schedule, have accountability of where you need to be for at that time. And that's what's going to carry you and lead you to the success.
100%. Create those separators with what you have before you, whatever it is.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way either. And the things that you do over and over are the ones that really matter. Consistency over time. That's what creates amazing things. And I feel like, over the years, the thing that pays off the most is always relationships. So just remember that. Like we've all known each other for years now. And you just learn a lot and it helps you stay on track. Eventually doing it by yourself gets really old.
Oh yeah. You're preaching to the choir over here. Yeah.
I was kind of okay with it, to be honest.
well, let's talk about like one major thing that you would do differently coming up for the people who are listening right now. let's start with you, Monica. If you're starting over, what would you do different, or one thing you'd do different?
I'm like Tech, where I don't think that way necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, because when I started, okay, I will say this: if I had the capital, I would have gotten help a lot sooner.
Mm.
I would have gotten help a lot sooner, because you can exponentially churn out more of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So I would have, done that. I would have done that, and I also would have spent more. So there was times where, like the dollar day, I would see something for just a little bit more, and I would be like, oh, I can't get that, and I should have just bought it if I had the money, if I had the budget. Learning to pay up more, and getting help a lot sooner.
Tech, any thoughts on what you would do differently if you started over? I mean, you started with a small amount of capital too.
Yeah, I started with $35, and I bought a T-Mobile Sidekick from Craigslist, and I sold it on eBay the same day. And then I got 2 T-Mobile Sidekicks with that money, and I sold them on eBay the same day or the next day. So that's how I started, with $35. Like Monica, I was single parent. So what I would do differently is something that took me a very long time to figure out, maybe 8 years or 9 years, is that none of this stuff is special. 99.99% of it, you can walk into any thrift store in America and replace it. Aside from the 0.01% of the rare stuff, the grails, which, those things are special. Yeah. You can hold on to them. You can, command top dollar. But 99.9% of these items are not special. And, go ahead. Ask me what was the last item that I gave a deal on? I don't know, because the guy bought it, he has it, and I don't care. I got the money for it, and I can go out to the thrift and I can find 10 more of them, and those 10 I can sell for $20 each, and I'll just keep flipping the money. Like, I don't remember what that item was today that I gave a guy a deal on to get the sale, to get the money back, and to buy more items. I don't even remember what it was. So none of these items are special. It's all easily replaceable. If the margin is there, if the price is right, don't be greedy. Take the sale. Take that $20, 5 more items, sell those for $100 and collective. Take that 100, sell it, buy $500 worth of stuff. Take that 500, buy $2,000 worth of stuff. Like, that's how fast you can compound your money if you're not being greedy and holding on for $1 extra, literally, or $3. Like, none of this stuff is special. Like, we're not selling Picassos. Like, we're selling stuff that people didn't care about. So, you can walk anywhere and you can pick it up. So treat it as such. And that's something that I've done in the last year or two. And it's helped a lot.
Yeah. Those conversions just are like magnets. More conversions bring more conversions. And I always feel like it happens this way. Is I say like, maybe I'm having a slow day, and then I take a low ball offer just to get the ball rolling, just to wake up my store. And I'm like, okay, that's the one that I just took one for the team. So the next one's going to be good. And you will get a good sale. So sometimes you got to take one for the team or sacrifice to the eBay gods to get that ball rolling. But I'm like, Tech, I don't even remember. He sold way more than me, but I've sold over 60,000 items. You think, is there one that I remember? Like, I wish I would have got more. No, I don't remember. Like, I just churn and burn.
So what would you do differently?
If I started over differently, I think I would have, actually, I know what I would have done. I wouldn't have done every category. I was just, I met everyone in the beginning. I got spoiled. I was the moron donating stuff and not knowing it was worth something. So I would have just focused on one thing. I think of all the resellers that I know more ways of being successful at it. I know a person that's successful at every single kind of reselling. And if I could start over, I would just pick one person, get obscenely good at it, and then when you have money and you're really good at something, if you want to do something for fun, you can do that later. Do that after you're super good at something. I would give the same advice to any beginner. Just get good at one category, then you can do whatever category you want after that. Whatever the one that you have an unfair advantage of. If you live in Idaho and your advantage is everyone wears Old Navy and Merona, and you know firsthand what sizes do well and what styles, and you have a connection with your local spot, push on that until you maximize that opportunity. Then, figure out online arbitrage or retail arbitrage. It's so easy to get confused with all the noise on social media. I'm guilty of confusing so many thousands of people. So definitely pick one thing, get super good at it, and don't be afraid to let people know I'm having trouble with this, because they'll point you in the right direction. This is one of the only things ever that the three of us are kind of competitors, but we freely share information with each other. That is not normal.
Yeah. Yep.
If you wanted to sell pencil sharpeners, we would just find someone who's good at it and then point you that direction. So, Monica, why don't we let people know where they can best find you if they want to reach out for more inquiries?
Oh, yeah. So I'm mainly on Instagram, as I mentioned earlier, the Posh Hanger. I did do one YouTube video, and I had planned on getting that ramped up, but I will soon, now that I have promised Chris.
Yes, you have to.
So I do, yeah.
I think it's super valuable for you to share your story. And I think a lot of people will get a lot of positive affirmation that this will work, but you have to take it seriously from the show.
Yeah, I feel like the other day, I've actually been taking a little bit of a social media break the last few weeks. I haven't been on. And I was asking myself, what is the reason you're on social media? Like, what is the one thing that when you hear it, see it, feel it, say it, where it feels like, oh, this is it? And my one thing is that I want to give people encouragement and hope if they're in a bad place, because that's where I was. And I remember feeling alone. I remember feeling so overwhelmed with depression and like all these negative things. And I want to be someone that can encourage people. Like, this isn't the end all be all. This is just a passing part of your journey, of your path. So I do plan all that to say, I want to try to transfer that energy onto YouTube. I do. I had that video phobia, and then just things happen, but I'm ready.
All right. Tech, any final thoughts?
Nope. Appreciate Monica. Appreciate her giving us her valuable time. And I just appreciate all you guys. So thank you.
I appreciate both of you.
All right, guys, everybody, take a deep breath, and thank you so much for spending your time with us. And we'll see you guys on the next show. Take care, guys.
Thank you for having me on. Okay, bye.